It was supposed to be a short domestic flight in Japan, but just 12 minutes after takeoff, a hidden flaw turned into horror. For the next 32 minutes, passengers prayed, screamed, and wrote farewell notes. Before the deadliest single-plane crash in history took 520 lives. Welcome to my channel. Today we will go through every detail of this horrific crash, so buckle up. On August 12, 1985, a massive Boeing 747 was making a 1-hour flight from Tokyo to Osaka. There were 524 people on board, including 5 crew members. They had been on a domestic flight for 12 minutes, when suddenly there was a loud explosion. All the lights went out. Some thought it might be a bomb or a terrorist attack. Others knew what it was. Moments earlier, inside the plane, a passenger had noticed a crack in the ceiling. It was growing larger by the second, and then it ruptured. The rear pressure bulkhead, a part of the fuselage that maintains cabin pressure, had burst open. Now it was clear why the oxygen masks had dropped. The tail section had also been blown off. What happened next shocked everyone. The hydraulic systems controlling the plane's steering were destroyed. The pilots suddenly had almost no control over the 747. One of the pilots radioed, "Mayday, Mayday," while struggling to maintain control of the plane. He could feel the aircraft swaying dangerously. As he later said, it felt like the plane was alive, and it was going to shake itself free of any control. The 747 was now a glider, and without control, they would all die. As they fought to control the plane, the co-pilot struggled with the manual controls. "I have never flown a 747 like this before," he yelled over the noise. He could feel the plane dropping hundreds of feet with each correction. The passengers panicked. Many started writing goodbye letters to their family and friends. A businessman wrote to his wife, "My darling, please take care of our family's future and forgive me for everything. My love, Taro." A young mother wrote to her daughter, "My sweet baby, Mommy loves you. I hope you will live happily." But not all were so calm. Some prayed loudly, others screamed for help. The pilots did their best to stay calm and steady. But with each passing minute, the situation got worse. They managed to get some control of the plane, but it was a terrifying ride. It was like a roller coaster with no safety bar. They needed to land the plane as soon as possible, but they didn't know where they were. All the instruments had failed. The pilot later said, "I called for a mayday, but it was impossible to tell whether the distress call had gone through because of the noise in the cockpit." They had no way of knowing that outside the plane, a search and rescue mission was already underway. Air traffic controllers heard the distress signal and immediately dispatched 2 F-15 fighter jets to intercept the 747. The pilots flew alongside the jet and made hand gestures, hoping they would understand. They needed help, but how could they communicate? The 747 had no working radio. The pilots had to write down their request for help. The first 3 letters the controller read were land, then O, and finally, lost. He understood. They wanted to land, but they had no idea where they were. The controller then wrote, "Okay, no," meaning no problem, "we'll help you." Then he spelled out Osaka. He hoped they understood. But even if they did, they still couldn't land. Not yet. The fight to keep the plane level continued. Inside the plane, the stewardess moved around the cabin to help passengers put on their life jackets. It was too late for oxygen masks. But what about a life jacket? Maybe there was still a chance. She remembered hearing a life raft was scheduled for tomorrow. Maybe they could use it. She radioed the pilot, "We have life rafts on board." But as she spoke, the plane suddenly dropped. She was thrown to the floor. Now the life rafts were scattered all over the cabin. Many passengers were badly injured. Outside the plane, the pilots were fighting to keep the jumbo jet from tearing apart. The co-pilot made a mayday call. "This is an emergency. We have no radio. Our altitude indicator has stopped working. We need help." But no one was coming to help. The 747 was flying over remote mountainous regions of central Japan. There were no airports nearby. The pilots knew they needed to keep the plane in the air as long as possible. Every minute they stayed aloft was a chance that they might find a place to land. The co-pilot asked the captain what they should do. "I don't know what to do," he replied. Meanwhile, back at the airport, all hell was breaking loose. The incident commander was getting regular updates on the 747's position. They were running out of time. He organized a massive search operation. Helicopters were dispatched. Police and firefighters raced to the scene. Everyone was looking for a place the 747 might land, but the plane kept circling. Back on the plane, the pilot decided to head south towards Tokyo. Maybe there was an airport nearby. They needed fuel. But with no radio, they had no way of knowing if they had enough fuel to make it. "How much fuel do we have left?" the co-pilot asked. "Enough to stay in the air for 20 more minutes," came the reply. The clock was ticking. They needed to land soon. Meanwhile, the passengers had donned their life jackets. Some wept openly, others sat quietly praying. The minutes stretched on. The plane banked sharply to the right. Many passengers screamed as they braced for impact, but it was only a near miss. The 747 skimmed treetops, narrowly missing power lines and telephone poles. Some passengers cheered. Maybe they would survive after all. But the pilot knew they were running out of options. He needed to land the plane, and fast. At 6:56 p.m., the pilot spotted an opening between two mountains. He banked the 747 sharply and started the descent. But it was too late. At 6 hours, 56 minutes and 19 seconds p.m., the right wing hit a mountain. The force of the impact tore the 747 apart. Fuel tanks ruptured, sending fire raining down onto the mountains below. Screams echoed through the valleys as the plane broke apart. People clung to pieces of debris, desperately trying to save themselves. Others lay still, their faces frozen in masks of terror. When emergency workers arrived at the scene, they were horrified. The crash had killed 520 people. Only 4 survivors were found, all women who had somehow managed to leave the plane and hide among the wreckage. The news of the crash shocked the world. People gathered around radios and televisions, desperate for more information. But as the hours passed, it became clear that there was nothing more to say. The plane was gone, taking 524 lives with it. As they investigated what had happened, they found the answer. 7 years earlier, the same plane had a tail strike accident during takeoff. Boeing engineers had repaired it incorrectly. That flawed repair had failed midair, causing the fuselage to rupture. The pilots had no way of knowing that. This was not fate. It was human error from years before. In the aftermath of the crash, Japan was devastated. Many families lost multiple members in one night. A total of 326 families lost both parents. 167 children lost both parents. 21 couples lost each other, and 11 siblings died together. In fact, 4 sets of triplets were wiped out. It was a national tragedy. In response to the crash, massive changes were made in aircraft inspection and repair safety. Boeing's reputation was damaged for years, but perhaps the biggest legacy of the crash was the impact it had on Japanese society. To this day, many people in Japan are still afraid to fly. Thank you for watching. What do you think of this case? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time.